Real Madrid forward Vinicius Jr was racially abused by Atletico Madrid supporters before last night's derby. It follows a week of abuse after being criticised for his dancing goal celebrations.
We can get more on this now and speak to La Liga TV presenter Semra Hunter live. Semra, unfortunately, the headlines from last night's game are about the events off the pitch rather than on it. Can you explain the story for us and how damaging this latest development is?
It's really a very sad story, to be honest with you. And it all goes back a few, let's say about a week or so. Some of the Mallorca players, whenever Real Madrid were playing against them, were a bit upset. They felt that Vinicius Jr was showboating in the way that he was celebrating his goals, which was effectively just by dancing that many players before him have done. It's not something new, and it's not something really that he should be criticized for, to be honest with you. And so because right after that, the derby was coming up, this whole story around him and the way that he was dancing really had a snowball effect. So all of a sudden, the media were starting to make it a bigger deal than it actually was. So people started getting into social media. They started attacking Vinicius Jr for it. And the racial abuse really started in the build-up to the game. And it reached its peak in the starts and in before, actually, I should say, at the game outside of the stadium. And it continued once the game actually got started and the players were on the pitch and they had things thrown at them, for example. There were objects being thrown at them. And specifically, Vinicius was being targeted, so much so to the point that things were horribly said. I don't really want to repeat them, but it was disgusting. It was despicable. It was shameful. And quite frankly, it was just very sad to see racism, xenophobia, this kind of behavior. It should not exist. It shouldn't exist in society. And the fact it still does exist at times here in Spanish football. It does rear its ugly head, and it really shouldn't. And so it's a problem. So the question now becomes, well, how does this be dealt with? How do we move on from this going forward? In the short term, at least as it pertains to this specific event, La Liga are reportedly going to file an official complaint to the government. There is a department within the government called anti-violence. They will then in turn launch an investigation to see what happened and come up with a suitable punishment. A punishment that could be, for example, economic. It could be a fine. It could be the case that they actually are able to specifically find out who these fans were that were involved. They can either ban them for a few games, they can ban them for life. Perhaps they could even close down a section of the stands going forward in several games in La Liga. So there are several outcomes that could happen. We obviously don't know what will happen as of yet, but in any case, unfortunately, it did happen. But I do hope that this is an opportunity for people to really take advantage of this to say, okay, we need to crack down. Something has to happen here, some consequences that are meaningful and not just a slap on the wrist.
And also, we saw Rodrigo dance with Vinicius and also the tribute goal celebration from Gabriel Jesus with Arsenal. How has Vinicius himself reacted or responded since everything's gone on?
The game even kicked off, he took to social media and he put up quite an extensive post saying, in summary, the fact that he is someone who is a Black Brazilian, who has come to Europe, who has been successful. And so he feels that he has been specifically targeted because of that, because people don't like to see the fact that he is being successful, that he's happy, and that he celebrates his happiness and his joy on the pitch. And he explained that, again, he is not the first person to do this, the first player to do this. It's an expression of his culture. It's an expression of other cultures. There are other players that have done this before in La Liga, such as Neymar or Antoine Griezmann or Ronaldinho. And so he basically said, well, respect it. Too bad for you if you don't like it, because I'm going to carry on doing it. And he has had a lot of support from people that you mentioned, also from the club. They put out an official statement saying that they were going to investigate it and take legal action if necessary to protect their player and to fight against racism. And he's obviously had a lot of support from those players around him. I think it was no surprise that probably it was planned that whoever was going to score, whether it was Vinicius, Rodrigo, or anybody else, they would collectively come together and they would do the dance to say, well, this is our way of rising above it, to show you that we're not going to be affected by it. So he does seem as though he's handling it pretty well. We'll see how it goes from here. But at least it's nice to see that he has a support system around him at such a difficult time.
Yeah, Semra, appreciate the update and your thoughts. Thank you.